Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into something specific but really crucial in the patent world. We're looking at MPP Section 1121. It's all about the content of a patent application publication. So the big question is, when your patent application goes public, usually after that 18-month mark, what exactly gets shown to the world? And critically, when's your last chance to influence what that publication looks like?
Right. Section 1121 is, well, it's the rule book for that moment of transparency. It lays out how the USPTO actually puts together that public document. And you hit on the key point, the deadline. There's a non-negotiable window that dictates the final form of what everyone sees. We need to unpack the components, the requirements, and especially that critical 4-month cutoff.
Okay, let's start with the basics then. What are the actual pieces? What does 37 CFR 1.215 say must be in that publication?
Sure. So assuming they're part of the application, there are 4 main elements. You've got the front page data, names, dates, title, then the specification, the detailed description, the claims, obviously, and the drawings.
Right, the core technical stuff. And where does the USPTO pull this information from? Is it just the very first draft submitted?
Mostly, yes. It's generally based on the original application papers you filed.
Right.
That includes the inventor's oath or declaration, and also any application data sheet or ADS that you filed correctly.
The ADS, right, where you list inventors, assignees, priority claims.
Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting. It's not just the original filing. The publication also includes any amendments that were timely entered. And timely is the operative word here. Those amendments have to be submitted and processed before the office starts the technical preparations for publication.
Technical preparations. That sounds a bit vague. Is there a concrete time frame we're talking about? Like, when does that clock start ticking?
Yes, absolutely. It's not vague in practice. The sources are clear. Technical prep typically starts a strict 4 months before the scheduled publication date. So think about it. If your application publishes at 18 months, you effectively have about 14 months from your filing date to get any necessary compliant revisions in.
14 months. Okay. That 4-month window at the end is the final cutoff then. If you miss that, what's filed is essentially what the public sees.
That's the gist of it. Miss that window, and, well, the version that gets published might be the one with errors or outdated info. It's the last chance to shape that specific public document.
Wow. Okay, so 14 months might sound like a lot, but for complex inventions or if strategies change, that could feel like a real deadline pressure.
It absolutely is. It's a major pressure point for applicants. And MPP 1121 spells out what kinds of changes can be included if you make that deadline. Things like a substitute specification, maybe a revised abstract, a completely fresh listing of claims, or updated drawings.
So let's say an inventor realizes their abstract, the summary isn't quite right, or maybe a drawing has a mistake. They need to get that corrected version to the USPTO before that 4-month countdown begins.
Precisely. If it arrives after technical prep is started, it's generally too late for that initial publication. The public record will show the original, potentially flawed version.
Is there a preferred way to submit these kinds of bigger changes?
Yes, there's an optional method. Applicants can submit what's called an amended copy of the entire application using the USPTO's electronic filing system, EFS. The whole point of this is to let the publication reflect the most current, accurate state of the invention as the applicant sees it.
That sounds like a good option, getting a clean version out there. But are there pitfalls? What if there's an issue with that EFS submission?
Big potential pitfall. If that amended copy is submitted late, or, importantly, if it doesn't meet the USPTO's electronic filing standards, maybe formatting issues or something, the office won't use it. They'll just revert back to the original materials they already have on file. So the burden is really on the applicant to get it right and get it in on time.
Okay, so compliance and timing are key there. What about the front page stuff? Applicant name, assignee, that's important business information. When does that get locked in?
Same principle applies. That identifying information gets included if it's properly submitted in the application data sheet, the ADS. And just like amendments to the spec or claims, the ADS data needs to be finalized before technical preparations begin. That same 4-month window is the cutoff.
Right. Now, what if there's a simple mistake? Say, a typo in the company name on the ADS. Does the USPTO fix that automatically before publishing?
No, and this is a really important point. The USPTO does not automatically correct errors in that front page identifying information. If you want it fixed in the publication record, you need to file a formal request for republication. And here's the catch.
There's always a catch.
Right. The application must still be pending when you make that request. If it's already issued or gone abandoned, fixing that public record becomes much harder, maybe even impossible.
Wait, seriously?
Mm.
The USPTO won't fix a clear typo in the assignee name unless you jump through hoops with a formal republication request while it's still live. That seems strict.
It really highlights that the onus for accuracy down to the last detail on the front page rests entirely with the applicant. The office publishes what it's given, essentially.
Okay. We've talked about text and drawings, things that fit on paper or an image file. But what about huge data files?
Mhm.
Like in biotech, you have massive sequence listings. How does MPP L1121 handle those?
That's a great question, and it's a key point for certain fields. For things like lengthy sequence listings or the newer sequence listing XML files, these are not published in the traditional paper or image format. They don't want to clog up the system with potentially thousands of pages of raw data.
So they're handled differently.
Exactly. They get published electronically. The main publication, the one you see as an image file, will include a note. It'll basically say, hey, the sequence listing is available electronically, and provide a hyperlink to access that separate file.
Okay, that makes sense. Linked to the big stuff. Does that apply to other large attachments too?
Yes, generally. Things like very large tables or appendices that appear after the claims are often omitted from the main printed or image publication as well. It keeps the core publication manageable.
Got it. Now, shifting gears slightly, MPEP in 1121 has a specific warning about filing preliminary amendments on the same day as the application itself. Why is that discouraged?
It sounds efficient, maybe, but it can actually cause problems. Filing an amendment at the exact same time as the initial application papers can complicate the office's internal processing. It can potentially mess with how the application data is initially captured, which could downstream affect the accuracy of what eventually gets published.
As the recommendation is.
Just integrate the changes directly. If you know you want certain revisions made right at the start, build them into the specification and claims you file initially. Don't file version 1.0 and then immediately file amendment 1.1 5 minutes later.
File the clean version from the get-go. Okay. It really feels like this whole section is about ensuring a clean, consistent, and accurate public record based on what the applicant provides by the deadlines.
That's precisely it. MPP 1121 sets up the technical rules and the procedural steps to make sure the published application is consistent, it meets USPTO standards, and it accurately reflects the invention as filed and timely amended. It's a foundation for that public disclosure.
Okay, this has been incredibly helpful for understanding the nitty-gritty of publication content. So for you listening, the big takeaway seems to be, know that 4-month deadline before publication, and pay close attention to the format rules, especially for electronic stuff like sequence listings. Control hinges on timing and compliance.
And let's tie this back to the bigger picture, the 18-month publication system itself, and a potentially devastating consequence. Remember, applicants can request non-publication if they aren't filing abroad. But if you initially requested non-publication and then you file a corresponding application in a foreign country that also mandates 18-month publication.
Uh-oh, I sense a problem brewing.
A big one. You must notify the USPTO about that foreign filing within 45 days.
And if you don't, what's the penalty for failing to notify them?
The penalty is severe. Your U.S. application can be held abandoned.
Abandon. Just for missing that 45-day notification about a foreign filing.
Yes. It shows just how seriously the USPTO takes the integrity of the publication system and its connection to global filings. You can lose your entire U.S. application over what seems like a simple procedural notification failure related to publication rules. It's a critical link.
Wow. That really drives home how vital understanding these procedural rules, like the ones in 1121, truly is. It's not just about getting the science right. Okay, fascinating stuff. Before we wrap up, we absolutely want to give a special thank you to Mike Shepard, the creative director behind this entire audio series. We really appreciate his work putting this together. And finally, our standard reminder. This discussion was based on summaries generated using AI tools and is for educational purposes only. It is definitely not legal advice. For reliable guidance, please consult the official MPEP text, talk to a qualified instructor, or seek advice from a registered patent practitioner. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you'll join us for the next one.
Absolutely. Remember, understanding these rules clearly is the first step to applying them correctly. See you next time.